The International Riga 2014 Forum, Cities for Europe, Freedom, Responsibility, Action, was held in Riga, Latvia on the 11th of November 2014. One of the objectives of the European Capitals of Culture in Riga was to discuss the role of culture in contemporary Europe, in a great variety of areas, up to national security. The main idea is in what we, every one of us, can do to shape the future of Europe. The Soul for Europe organisation was an initiative of a couple of people 10 years ago to bring together politicians, who make the major and very important decisions, with artists, mayors, businessmen and intellectuals to jointly discuss the role of culture in the development of society.
I am working in the initiative in Berlin, based in Berlin, A Soul for Europe, which has a special branch of work which means Cities for Europe. And this is what we are here with. Cities for Europe means to find out, to make research about what is it what holds Europe together and which role do the cities play in it. We know that cities in Europe have a traditional function as being the center part of cultural development. European culture is mainly a cities culture, less a rural culture from the countryside as well, and also quite important. But so the cities have their importance historically and also today to work for Europe and to find resources, human resources, benevolent resources of founding Europe besides the huge, big economic, financial and whatever problems. One person to the other has a cultural approach in his life and he should work for Europe. This is our mission.
Do you think the City of Culture is still valid then? I mean, it's been going on for 30 years now and it's just been extended until 2033. Do you think it still has its validity?
I will tell you, I'm always saying I've been working with the local government in Berlin. I was responsible for the international cultural relations of the city of Berlin, but also for European affairs. And I've been developing parts of the programs in Brussels as a member of the committee there, and also followed the work of our own city of West Berlin when we had been cultural capital, which was long ago, 1988, and only the western part of it. And I followed before and after the development of the initiative, and I must say what's been said by many people, this is the most valuable, the enfant chéri, as the French say, of Europe in the cultural field. It is most successful, most meaningful, and as far as Riga, for instance, is concerned, we know that Riga is a city of a huge cultural tradition and of cultural responsibility. And for those two aspects, and you can add more to it, I say it is good that a city like Riga has the crown of culture capital. And when I say the crown, I always say, if I may repeat on such an occasion, the city that has worn the crown of being decorated as cultural capital of Europe for 1 year takes a responsibility and an obligation to work in this European dimension further on. We had developed a circuit of cooperation, which as a network does not function at present so actively, but doesn't matter. Cities, they work together, and Riga will, as many, not all, but many of the other cities, have to see that after that coronation, after that year, they go on working with a European dimension.
Steve Austin, you're also a member of Soul for Europe.
Yes.
What has the day been like for you today?
I'm very positively amused and triggered because, first of all, it seemed to be well prepared, but secondly, so many people came, and the topics in the panels are, in my opinion, exactly at the right time, at the right moment, dealing with the right issues. So that is rare, it's not usual. And so the team of Riga must have an excellent nose for what people like to talk about.
And moving forward, do you think Riga will maintain its success this year from what you've learned of the projects?
This is a too general question. That is what I try to deliver to. If the team itself and the individuals within the team are strong personalities, then it will continue. But they have to fight for it themselves. They probably even have to change their status as a citizen, or they probably have to become entrepreneurs. I don't know that. But I hope that I made clear that prolonging of an office or prolonging of a paid institution paid by the taxpayers, in my opinion, is the false way. It's the reality which comes out of society and original ideas and so on, has to be paid for one thing. If those people who are involved want to continue, they have to become intelligent entrepreneurs. Otherwise, it will, in a couple of years, it will end as one of these obsolete state-paid structures.
So what advice would you give to Matera? Matera in the south of Italy has been named Capital of Culture 2019.
Yeah.
So 5 years of preparation, what can you recommend?
Now, she is based in Amsterdam, so we have a lot of communication. Italy is very different from the Nordic countries. If I take the Netherlands as a Nordic country, like Latvia, then I must admit that my advices to her, for her particular case, might be not at all appropriate, because the Italian city and cities, an Italian way of working, is very, very Italian.
Okay, well, we'll see how that goes. Holland will be a host of Capital of Culture in 2 years' time.
Yes,
is that right?
Will be in. We have 2 official languages in the Netherlands. So the second official language is Frisian. And the province of Friesland, Frisia, the capital of Frisia is Leeuwarden, Ljouwert. They have won the prize, and their motto is very much, I would say, in the way of Riga. It's Minskep. Minskep means working together on the level of citizens. Gemeinschaft, Minskep. And I know these people, and I like, first of all, Leeuwarden is a small city. The Minskep is a tricky motto, but they involve all cultural organizations to work out a program for this Minskep. So that will change the attitude of artists and politicians completely, I am sure.
Maritza, can you tell me about Soul for Europe? What is it?
Hi, Soul for Europe is a European initiative that has started 10 years ago from Berlin, from a group of people, not only from the culture sector, but mainly from there, also from politics, that really saw that Europe, as it started, tends to lose interest for its citizens, because I think and I think that has been already quoted, you can't fall in love with a unique market. Yeah? And that there must be something else that keeps us together. And that thing is culture. It's culture either by itself, by what sort of inspiration and values culture transports through artistic events or simply with the heritage that each European country comes with, but also, and I think today I think mostly this side is relevant, that culture is the ground where we are cultivating the values that would make, let's say, an active citizen. In order to be able to use, for instance, all the amount of possibilities we have nowadays in Europe, it requires a certain sort of attitude, responsibility, activeness. And I think access to culture is a precondition for that sort of mood, of behavior in Europe. Yeah.
We are from Matera, and Matera has been candidate and has won the title for thank you, for 2019. What advice would you give Matera in the preparation to this big year?
Well, I think it's a great thing that Matera won the European Capital of Culture, and being myself involved in the competition for the title in Romania, I see there's so much effort for so many cities. So I'm sure, first of all, your project must have been greatly prepared since has won. And I also think it could be maybe interesting to still have a look on what the other cities in Italy and also in Bulgaria and other countries have been proposing, and maybe bring a little piece of that into Matera for the program of the Capital of Culture. I think for me it would be also interesting to see a very flexible framework where there's opening to experiments, especially in a place that doesn't have necessarily so much of the big culture, but rather to make it a laboratory where everyone who's involved in creative work in Europe would feel welcome to come to explore, experiment, try, maybe fail, but see that as part of a process of learning that I think we need nowadays in Europe.
So what have been the most important elements of today for you?
The most important element for me is the importance of city in making Europe. Cities are really the place where Europe is invented by citizens, and we were able to hear it in many testimonies and talks today.
And do you think they're right in saying that Europe is no longer a collection of member states but a collection of cities?
I believe so. Well, it's not today, but in the future, for sure. But even in France, in my opinion, we have this difficulty in the relation between all the territories, in between the city, the département, region, and the nation, and Europe is also. We are also part of Europe, and we often forget that.
So this is very much more of a bottom-up approach rather than a top-down. How do you think a city of culture in the next 5 years, such as Matera, can work towards this approach?
Mm-hmm. I think Matera is a great challenge for the city, because we also have many people here which have been working in those cultural capital, and definitely Matera is this connection between Europe and the south of Europe and the Mediterranean Sea, of course. So I think and at the moment, this is definitely very important. The way, our relation of European countries with African countries, and Matera is a great chance for that, to be a model of a city that is working on this migration of population, which is the norm now in Europe and in the world.
So, Nele Hertling, I was very interested in what you were saying today. You were part of the artistic director of Berlin City of Culture 1988, so a long time ago now, but you were talking about how this kind of group, Soul for Europe, is formed of like-minded people coming from different cultural cities. Is that right?
Yeah, it's right, and I mean, it's Steve Austin and myself who were here today are really the last two, somebody said, the old elephants. So it started with a group of citizens in Berlin, different ages, just to think about what could we do for Europe, a long time ago also, 2002 I think. It started with the first conference, 2004, Berlin conference, and after that there were so many topics on the table that the participants decided we should go on. And we built this initiative on a group of younger Europeans who had been invited and were really interested to go on. So this was the beginning of the initiative that then started from an office in Berlin, which could be set up by private foundations, impressed by the first conference. And so it grew into a group of people really from more or less all over Europe. And we saw some of them here today, but it's about, I would say, about 60 younger Europeans that really now carry the ideas and develop projects and start to carry this idea of dialogue between politics and civil society into new eras and find new supporters.
And finally, from your experience, what should Matera, European City of Culture 2019, be aiming at for that special year?
Again, I think what we also said today, try to develop an ongoing idea, not just create a project with international famous performances, which some cities did, but really try to work on what they have at home and really develop from there a European project, because as I always keep thinking about what Melina Mercouri said when she invented the idea, the diversity of Europe should be shown to European audiences. And the more specific a city is, based on its own history, tradition, the more interesting for European audiences, because they travel to see something special and not to see the same thing all over. But it should, of course, have this European quality on top of that, but really create something which is a process and not just a project.
Katrin, as part of Soul for Europe, what will you be taking home from today?
As I said in the conclusion of the panel, what I will be taking home today is yet another experience of people meeting, sharing ideas, having the ambition to do something together, being in a way inspired by the need also to share and to work together. I think it's much more important to work in partnership with others and share steps and a vision than to do it on your own. I'm not interested in fighting against the wall and bumping my head into that wall, but rather trying to find out ways in which together we can in a way form a force, a powerful force in bringing our messages to the front.
Kaspers, you were moderating, but I wanted to ask you, what did you think of today's work?
I think today was a very good day for all people working in different cultural areas throughout Europe, and I think that the forum gave a lot of new creative ideas how to involve citizens into cultural processes, and also how to make sure that culture is part of the policy making process at different levels, municipal level, national level, and also at the European level. And I think that everybody in this forum agrees that it is very important that culture is a part of that process, because it involves people, it motivates people, it inspires people, and it can help make better decisions.
Here at the Forum for Cities for Europe, we've already been talking with some European Parliament members about the important points of including neighbours even on the edges of Europe, culture as emotions, and freedom as cultural openness and relations. It's all about working on the experience of Riga 2014, on personal experience, and looking forward to the future. Only looking at the past can we then create visions for the future. Let's get some more in-depth contributions from some of the members of the board. So what have been your impressions of today?
I think it's very interesting to involve culture in politics and in citizenship, because I think that we need to have a strong cultural identity to be active citizens. And Latvia, it's a country with a very old origin, but in the same time very quite complicated ethnic situation because of her history. So this link between culture, art and citizenship could help to, as we discussed, revive the European dream, which unfortunately disappeared in the last 20 years. We just talk about market economy, free trade, and very boring things like that. And as I say, cannot fall in love in a single market. But you can fall in love in European dreams, and what we Europeans, Italian, French, and Corsican, Sardinian, others, We have supported the European dream because we thought that it was a way to go out of our internal civil war, of our desesperance and lack of perspective. So we have to recreate perspective, and maybe we could find this perspective coming from Latvia and from Riga. Why not?
So what do you think about Europe bottom up? What do you think is the best way to move forward with this kind of approach?
Definitely with the citizens, with the people, the inhabitants of Europe, and through culture, through the language of culture. And when I say this, I mean all assets of it. So not only music or dance or theater or movies or literature, everything. I think that the positiveness, the positive feelings are captured in culture, and I think Europe and the European Union needs much more positive energy nowadays, and that can go and work with culture.
Yes, and the politicians were saying that they need culture to kind of promote and boost Europe. Would you agree with that?
I would say it should not be a need. Because that's again something. I mean, when we talk about a need, it means like, okay, we have to do something. People don't like to do things when it's told us that we have to do it. So I would maybe suggest to rethink it and to say culture is something that we want, that we live in every day in our normal life, because I think that culture is all around us from that moment on when we switch in the radio or the television in the morning. There are at least a couple of words or moments or songs, and that's already culture, you know. So I think it's also a thing of how we define these phrases and these thoughts and these missions for ourselves.
So for Matera European Culture, City of Culture 2019, what would you recommend they do in the 5 years of preparation?
I think it's a good idea to look around first internally what the city has to offer and the region has to offer, to collect all these positive cultural goods that this region and the city can offer, and also to find through culture also links with other cities, other countries, maybe also with other European capitals that have been holding this before. Also to go and to talk to these people who have been organizing culture capitals, because there are always positive and negative aspects as well. But I think positive examples are good to take home and to maybe create something that is the same, using the good knowledge already and the good experiences. And the negative experiences are always a good school, you know, to learn out of it and try not to make the same mistakes, maybe.
Andrea, as a Ukrainian novelist, what do you think of today's forum?
Well, it's very dynamic, energetic, interesting. I mean, there is lots of energy because all the participants, most of the participants are young, if not in the age, then definitely in their soul. I mean, it's interesting that the discussion about, I would say, cultural activity potential in Europe can be so lively and sometimes so contradictory. Cannot quote exact words of the participants, but for me the idea is that the art can be neutral or independent from the political or social context is a bit strange, because where I live, actually, art is always very much politically engaged, and even the art is apolitical. It is also in the some kind of sign of rejection of people of art towards the politics in Ukraine.
Coming from a country that's also on the edges of Europe, what do you think neighbouring countries and neighbouring countries within Europe can mean for new generations and new approaches?
Well, I mean, we are following these countries. I mean, we are following with maybe quite a long delay the countries like Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Hungary. And for us, it is always very interesting to see what kind of problems they meet on the way to United Europe, although they are already in the United Europe, but I mean, they are still on the some kind of niveau, different level of integration. But cultural integration is very important. It comes always first before the economical and political integration, and I think culturally we will be following these countries much sooner, because I mean, in the time of crisis, the culture and the arts are developing much faster than in a stable situation. So in a way, I'm very happy with what is happening now in Ukrainian culture. Of course, not in politics or not in the military conflict.
So, Krista, as a citizen, what has been your involvement in Riga 2014?
Well, I was one of the tour guides at the former KGB headquarters building and exhibitions. And basically what I did, I was a guide and I tried to explain people, both locals and foreigners, about the things that happened there in the former KGB headquarters and actually in the Soviet occupation time itself.
And what did it feel like to be able to be involved in this project as a citizen like anybody else?
Well, of course it was amazing because we tried to educate people about the things that had happened here, because there are still a lot of people who have some misleading information or no knowledge at all of the things that happen here in Latvia or in the rest of the former Soviet countries. And another important thing that we achieved is that we people who worked there, we were able to come up with this initiative where we are still trying to collect signatures that, well, if we succeed, then this building will definitely be preserved and turned into a normal museum or some sort of memorial, because this was just a project and unfortunately it ended on October 19th, and we are still uncertain about the future of this building.
Do you think this is the best way to keep Riga 2014 alive? I mean, it's only got a couple of months left of the year 2014, but hopefully this kind of project to be renewed is the future of culture in this town.
Actually, yeah, that's a really good point. It would, one of the ways how this building could help culture, not just history, would be, the fact that it would be still preserved. And probably, obviously, a lot of people who have come to this former KGB headquarters, they associate it with the Riga 2014 project. And it would be one of the ways how, it could probably keep Riga 2014 project to stay alive.
So we have another fellow European Capital of Culture here. We have a representative from Pilsen 2015. Looking at the brochure here, it looks like it's going to be a great year. So what did you think of today?
Well, I'm taking part in many Soul for Europe events, and today it's especially good because of the link with the European Capital of Culture in Riga. We heard some nice examples of concrete projects that are bringing Europe to the grassroots of the citizenship. But of course, even the morning debate about the sustainability and the long-term effects linked to the vision and mission of European Capital of Culture were really inspiring.
And how are the preparations going for the big year?
You mean in Pilsen? Yeah, they're on the way. We are very busy. And we have fixed our program. The program book is already printed, and we are inviting everyone to go and see what does it look like to be European Capital of Culture in Pilsen. We are opening on 17th of January, and then we have more than 600 events. On a very different scale and level, the grassroots participatory projects with citizens developing the idea of cooperation and participation, but of course large-scale festivals like the Festival of Light, like the 70 years anniversary celebration of the end of Second World War, hopefully if everything goes all right, Royal Deluxe presentation in Pilsen, like the traditional festivals of music, theater and film that are running in Pilsen for many years already. So there is a lot of things to see, and we especially emphasize creativity of any kind. So be it graphic design, be it crafts, be it fine art. In the public space there is all the time plenty to see. So you're warmly welcome to Pilsen, invited.
Thank you. Has it been useful to come to Riga and see how Riga has done it?
Of course that we are learning from the experience of the previous European capitals. We are in conversation with many of them, and actually this is my third time this year in Riga already. So we have been for the opening, we have to study how we should organize the opening. We have been here for the World Choir Games, and it's all very inspiring. Of course that every city has different contexts, but the main goal is the same. Actually, we heard it today. It's the change of the attitude, it is change of the role of culture in the society.
Have you been able to collaborate with Mons very much?
Yes, we have several projects together, 5 or 6 or 5. Again, on a different scale. We have a theater co-production, the schools cooperate between each other, so it's very nice cooperation as well.
Great, we look forward to seeing everything. Thank you. So Ivor, we've come to the end of the forum. It's extremely interesting. How did you find it?
Actually, every forum gives some ideas. You start to think on yourself, and even maybe sometimes it's not directly on the theme that the forum is talking about, but you have some fresh ideas, some contacts that you make, and that's what I love about conferences, because sometimes people ask, why do we need conferences? People just talk and talk. But I have been in this, so to say, business for years, and I see that we have results. For example, today I was witnessing the meeting between Finnish and Latvian representatives of people who will make celebrations for our nationhood 100 years celebrations. And they met just occasionally here. That was not a planned meeting, but they said, oh, that's very happy that we met here because we have already our projects going on from today's meeting. And that's, I think, the fascinating thing, and that's the future. Because what we are talking about is based on our former experiences, is based on our actual lives. But in a way, in that way, we build the future. And it happens maybe not too formally, but that's the result, and that's what I love. And I know that Riga 2014 will be continued in all different kind of projects, and it will be done on the high level even that it was before, because we have now more and more European contacts and networks and experience, and even that Riga has been the capital of culture for years and thousands of years, I would say. But now that is the thing that this is a starting point for a fresh future, and this year has been giving us all the possibilities to start the fresh future.
Okay. Well, thank you for inviting us. It's been very useful, and thank you again.
Thank you.